Well, welcome everyone. I think we'll get our seminar started. Thank you so very much for venturing out today. We've been promising Gayle that the weather would improve every single day. And I guess our understanding of improvement is different than hers. But
Fridays would be better.
Today she's been truly tested, and she can go back to Northern Ontario and tell them that she's experienced a Saskatchewan day when the wind chill took it down to 40 below. This is a seminar. I'm just going to give you a bit of background to the context for Gayle's remarks. And I have to say it's my tremendous pleasure to be able to introduce Gayle. She's familiar to some of you, but to many of you she's a new face here in Saskatchewan. Gayle is the director of the Community Economic and Social Development Unit at Algoma University in Sault Ste. Marie. And she's also the founder and director of Nordic Institute, which is a research institute that's really focused on the needs of Northern Ontario. And about 6 years ago, I think it was, I approached Gayle out of the blue and said, how would you feel about venturing down on quite an adventure with the rest of us? We're going to apply for this CURA, this 5-year CURA, and what we want to do is study the social economy, and do you think you'd be interested in coming on board? And we're really pleased to say that she said yes. Gayle's been facilitating the research as part of our larger SSHRC project in Northern Ontario for the last almost 6 years now. And we're just in the stages of our 1-year extension where we're thinking about writing and getting some publications out and trying to do some deeper analysis of the work that's come as a result of the project, which for many of you is familiar. That's linking, learning, leveraging social enterprises, knowledgeable economies, and sustainable communities. And it's been a stepping off stone also for the work that Gayle is doing, because she was so inspired by the experience that she submitted her own CURA application. And we're crossing our fingers that that's going to take her into another 5 years of research in Northern Ontario, really pressing further on many of the kinds of research issues that were identified while she's been involved in this project. A lot of what we've done within our research is community-based research. In fact, all of what we've done is community-based research. It's been a partnered research model where in most cases the research has been initiated by the community partners, and we've worked with them to carry out that research by finding students and by linking in other academics who are interested in, and finding other partnerships within the communities to pursue these topics. So what Gayle's going to share with us today is some of the insights that she's gained as she's been doing this, and she's put a lot of reflection into the ways in which you can build respectful relationships. Gayle works a lot with First Nation communities and has really developed some wonderful models, and we're looking forward to her comments in that area. So welcome, Gayle. Oh, and before she starts, I just want to do a bit of a sales pitch for her publications here. We've got annual report from Nordic and also from her program, CESD. They're both very innovative, and if you're interested, we've got some copies right here.
Thanks very much, Lou, and thanks. I'd like to thank everybody at the Centre for Cooperative Studies for welcoming me here. You could have made it a little bit warmer. That would have been nice, but the welcome was certainly a very warm one, and I really appreciate that to everyone. My only connection to Saskatchewan, or my closest connection to Saskatchewan, other than the relationships that we've been building over the last 5 years, is my father was born here. He was born in Yellowgrass and was very influenced, although he only lived here until he was about 5. He brought the cooperative spirit of Saskatchewan that I think everybody in Canada is very familiar with. He brought that with him to Ontario, and most of his life was spent trying to build a cooperative movement amongst farmers in Northern Ontario. And to some extent he was successful. In other places he wasn't as successful, but certainly was very active around marketing the beef through the beef that he raised through a cooperative, and they also had a cooperative dairy for a long period of time, and a number of cooperative pastures. So I grew up in that that kind of influence, and I think that in some respects, it's been a very formative part of my experience in everything I've done, including the community work that I did prior to returning to school as a mid-career change and going into academics. So this is, yeah, as Lou said, this is a little bit of my experience in building this community university partnership that I think in some ways it was a very organic development over the 5 years of the research that we did. And for those of you who saw an earlier iteration of this presentation that I did almost a year ago now, I'm hoping that today I've brought a few more months of reflection and some opportunity to really think through some of these, as well as through discussions with some of the people that are here and with some of my other colleagues back in Ontario. So hopefully I'll give you something useful. I want to acknowledge the fact that you know, any presentation that I do is often based on a whole host of other people's work. And certainly Lou was extremely instrumental in both in getting us on board from myself and the rest of the team. But also the researchers that I mention here are the people who really did they were the people that were in the trenches every day doing the work from the university's side of things. And those community organizations, there's just too many names for me to list them all, but these are the organizations that I want to talk to you briefly about before I look at the real nature of these community university partnerships and research. And of course our funders, and I've mentioned the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council, but there were many other funders that helped us with these research partnerships, because no one funder could probably ever afford to give us enough money to do the work that was done. So just for those of you who might not be really familiar with community-based research, the definition of it is sort of encapsulated in the next couple of slides. And it's a collaboration, obviously, a partnership between community groups and researchers. But the idea is that the community itself has an issue that they want to take action on, that they can see where there's a usefulness in involving the university or in involving researchers with them, that there's some knowledge that they don't have that they feel that they need access to in order to support their work. The whole idea behind it is that the intention of it is that you're going to create some new knowledge or some new understanding about a very practical community issue in order to bring about change. So that's kind of, and so as a result of those things, because that's the whole intention, that the intention here is to bring about change, to make the world a little bit better place for this particular community that you're working with. It's therefore a collaborative venture where you're partners, you're in a partnership with the community that you're working with. The community itself needs to be participating in that, fully participating in the research itself. It should be empowering for the community members. So it's not me, the expert researcher, telling you what you should be doing in your community, but rather it's a process of us learning together, and that we both come to new understandings and new realizations, and that the community members are empowered by that experience. And of course systematic, which is something that we need in order to do good research, and it's transformative, that you take action, and through that action you don't always get the results that you plan for, of course, No action is always perfect, but you learn from that and you move forward in transforming, in social transformation, really. So you can already, I'm sure, for those of you who haven't really thought about this before, you can see that there's all kinds of challenges inherent in trying to build these partnerships and relationships between communities and universities. There's always power differentials, of course. Universities tend to have an elevated status in community. When a university professor announces the results of some study, often their status is elevated by that experience, and they're often viewed as the experts. So there's always this tension between the university and the community in terms of community members not necessarily having the same power or status as the university. And of course, the university itself has all kinds of structures that make it quite challenging for people who are not familiar with those structures to negotiate their way through them and to negotiate the kind of agreement in terms of a research partnership that will really benefit the community and will achieve the community's goals. Because of this power differential, or in addition to it, is of course then the challenge of trying to establish a relationship of trust. How do you trust people that are a lot more powerful than you, and should you? And in terms of, from the researcher's side as well, is having the trust in the community organization, because they don't necessarily know the history and the context and the culture of that community organization that they're trying to work with either. So there's this challenge, great challenge, in terms of relating to one another in a way and really establishing that trust and respect for one another.